Okay, so let me just explain my rationale on getting this bike. I'm getting older, I'm an older person. Um, I want a bike that is safe, but I can go uphill. I'm not planning on doing any races. If I do a race, I'm too old really for the races. I'll join a race. I don't want to look like a fool if there's a race available. But I'm not really competing or trying to be the best or anything like that. It's just for fun. The races are really a great way to just hang out with people, enjoy each other's company that have a similar interest. But I want to go on group rides. I want to be able to keep up with guys that are younger than me, or at least not make them wait too long for me to catch up. But the main thing is that I do so much riding by myself. I wanted a bike that I could do anything I wanted around here, go uphill, go downhill. Um, there's always a lot of debris on the trails around me. It's not that people don't take care of them or that it doesn't get cleaned up. They do. In fact, they do a fantastic job. It's just that so many trees and things fall down and get into the onto the trails that you're just going to eventually run into something that goes on the trail, and you're going to have to lift your bike over it. So I was thinking about getting an e-bike, and I'm glad I didn't. I didn't want a bike that was heavier than the one that I already had. I had the Scalpel 4, but I wanted a more capable bike, and I wanted a bike that was going to be better for the terrain around me. The trails that I go on typically have a lot of rocks, roots, loose terrain, sticks, branches. These are obstacles that are not set up by people that know what they're doing, where they set up like a log that you jump over, and they might have a ramp to go on there. No, this is nature puts it there on her own. And so these are things that either you try to just slam over, or you got to lift your bike over um, the obstacle. And so having a carbon bike and this bike, they say, and if I pull it up here on the specs for the medium, they say that the weight on a medium is 29 and a half. Now, mine ended up being just a little over 29 with the pedals, and I believe they put 29 and a half without pedals. But I did get an upgrade on the cranks. I got an SLX crank, and I got better brakes as a free upgrade because of the part shortage. They just, whatever they can find, they throw on the bike and they send it to you. And so I wanted something that was capable of going over these obstacles with ease, and probably most important, I wanted something I can lift onto my rack without hurting my back. And I didn't want anything heavier than the Cannondale. And the way that I have it set up, it's a little over 30 pounds. It's still very light for an aluminum bike. And so keeping this bike at 29, under 30 pounds was very important for me. And the only way I can get a capable bike like this is to get the carbon. So that's why I went with the carbon. And I'm glad I did. That I was thinking about getting aluminum. The aluminum would have been a couple pounds heavier than the Cannondale, and I didn't want to go in the wrong direction. Um, Another reason why I really like this bike, and I saw the Specialized when I was looking at the Cannondale, the Scalpel, way back when, the Specialized had their SWAT box. And I thought that was so neat to be able to put stuff into the bottom tube there, the down tube, and put your tools in there so you don't have to bring a backpack. Because I wear a backpack and I used to have a reservoir, and I still have the backpack, but I'd like to not do, especially on really hot days. I would rather stuff everything that I need in here for tools, for flat repair, um, maybe my keys, my wallet, whatever. Put it in there instead of in my shirt pocket or my shorts pocket, because as I mentioned another time, I took a bad spill on the Cannondale and landed right on my back. And if I had my wallet and keys back there, I probably could have hurt myself a lot more. So I'd rather keep it in the bicycle um, instead of in my pockets. Um, and so that was something that I really, that really appealed to me. And so that's another reason why I went with the Top Fuel. But the main reason is the terrain that I'm involved with, where there's a lot of uphills and downhills. Not really, you can't really bomb down anything unless you go to certain mountains. But for the most part, it's cross country trails with a lot of chatter and obstacles that are different every time you go out. You really don't know what to expect. And so having the scalpel just wasn't quite dealing with the obstacles the way that I wanted. It was great for going uphill, uh, you know, and I'm doing a review here on the Trek bike. What I found in my first couple rides was that it was more capable going up um, low grade hills, Mo much better going down hills. Um, Although I wouldn't recommend going, bombing down a very steep hill or big jumps or anything like that. But I'm not doing that. I'm too old to go down these huge hills and doing these 10-foot drops or whatever. I'm not going to do that. I don't have a park where I can build up those skills. I just want to enjoy nature, get out there, and be able to deal with the obstacles. So the capabilities of the bike. It has 120 suspension on the front and the rear. And this is an upgrade from the Scalpel where I had 100 on the front and 100 on the rear. But the way that the rear shock is set up and probably the type of shock, this was probably a very basic shock. I don't remember too much about it. It had a lockout that you can, both on the front and the rear, not remote, but you can just reach down there and flick the switch. Um, but it was very plush and very bouncy. If it wasn't locked out and I was trying to really get up a hill and get out of the saddle and so forth, it would bounce up and down and it would sap your energy. What I found with the Top Fuel is that if I am not in the saddle, I need to power through something, I don't feel the same bob. And that is very important to me. I remember doing some research and people were saying they thought it was locked out. I feel the same way. It feels like it's locked out whenever you're pedaling, whether you're going uphill or downhill. But I do feel the shock kick in. I don't know how they do this. It's somebody more involved in bikes will explain it better probably how it works. But when you have it in the down position, it's not totally open apparently. And so when you're pedaling, it'll stay pretty stiff and not bob. And then when you hit some obstacles, it'll start kicking in. And so I felt very strong pedaling efficiency, at least on low inclines and over obstacles when I was going over some rocks with mud and, I lost my momentum. I was able to keep that momentum going on this bike, whereas on the Scalpel, I really couldn't. I was slipping all over the place and I just couldn't generate the power with all that bob to get out of that mud trap, the rock and mud trap. And so really appreciated the rear shock here. Is very, very impressed. Of course, I'm impressed with the weight. I was able to lift the bike over obstacles, no problem. The the problems that I had with the bike were the grips. You get this bike, make sure you have a nice set of grips that you really like, maybe off your old bike or something. Get rid of these grips. I felt every single vibration coming up into my hands, and my hands were killing me after the first ride. It was a real bad experience. Um, One thing I learned was that we overpumped the tires because we wanted the stands to seal the tire in. They did a great job, but that first ride was very uncomfortable and very sketchy. I was sliding all over the place um, because we overpumped the tires. But once I let out some air, the ride was so much better, and it really did do a great job. So I'm really happy with the bike so far. Once I replaced those things and deflated the tires to the proper amount that I like it at, it's uh, it's definitely worth it. If you're thinking about getting a Top Fuel, maybe now is the time to grab this thing. If you have the same kind of circumstances that I do, where you don't want to be a professional biker, you just want to enjoy nature and be able to handle whatever nature throws at you. And, that's including obstacles you can't get over because having a very heavy bike, yeah, you can get around the park in an e-bike very easily. But if you've got a whole bunch of trees down in front of you and you got to lift up the bike and carry it for 20 feet or so, a young person will have no problem doing that. But somebody, my age and older, their back is not going to like that very much, and that's going to ruin the experience. So having a light bike, yeah, you're not going to be able to go as far as an e-bike, but it is the all-around bike. It's a jack of all trades, as it were. It'll be able to adapt to pretty much anything you want to do, but not necessarily do them as well as a bike that specializes in it. So I like that. I like being able to go wherever I want and do whatever I want, and not be limited by my bicycle necessarily. It'll still be able to do the job. So that's my review. That's my rationale on this bike. Here I've got some videos that I took while I was at some parks, and I plan to do some videos about the parks that I go to. So we'll see how this goes, and thanks for watching.